So we have the UN Major Group for Children and Youth, the London Center for International Law Practice, Emerald Group Publishing, and of course, Royal Dutch School of Business and Law. And to also help open today's session, we have the Dean of the University of East London Royal Dutch School of Business and Law, Dr. Randolph Cooper. Come to the floor.
I have a personal interest in this field, which goes back to 1986. At that time, I was working for a startup in Toronto, which was a multicultural firm which wanted to promote entrepreneurship. I was a country risk analyst, and the team represented 4 different nations. What was interesting about that experience was the fact that we had a tremendous battle to convince investors that entrepreneurship was a worthy cause, as opposed to investing in big business or traditional investment paths. It was a bit of a battle. The CEO made it his stated cause, and like many startups, it folded after about 36 months due to under-resourcing. Nevertheless, I'm proud of the fact that the CEO was literally 25 to 30 years ahead of its time. Now, just prior to opening today, I had a conversation with Ian Bathgate, who you'll hear from a bit later, and we were talking about the degree to which entrepreneurship has faced an uphill battle with regard to investment and recognition, if you will, by big business. In fact, at that time, in 1986, we found we were embroiled in an argument with the Globe and Mail, Canada's national newspaper, about how you spell entrepreneurship, because they kept insisting there was no such word. So all this by way of saying that I'm tremendously fascinated in the subject, and I hope you have a fruitful day as far as discussion and idea development. And once again, on behalf of the University of East London, thank you all for your participation. I hope you have a tremendously...
There was a gap in the knowledge about new emerging topics in business and management, particularly entrepreneurship. But most importantly, there was no clear journal which is actually bridging that gap between business management, entrepreneurship, and sustainable development. And at the time, in 2003-04, we strongly believed entrepreneurship, business management, everything we do in business and management, it has to tie and align very closely with the global efforts to achieve sustainable development. And this event is part of the celebration. Emerald, WASD, and all these bodies involved in celebrating the global months of entrepreneurship, if you like. I am very pleased to see the journal now being bringing lots of new ideas to the floor within academic community. And we have seen the statistics last year, the year before. It's become widely perceived in Middle East, in America, in Latin America, in Africa. So people start to make use of the journal. And we are also pleased our relationship with Emerald have helped us to make this journal available for people in developing countries completely free of charge.
My definition of social entrepreneurship has recently, very recently, including last night, been shaped by 2 stories, 2 experiences. One experience when I was speaking at conference Energy Perspective in May, there was a very young, bright and beautiful girl from Kenya, from a small village, who traveled to outside her country for the first time, but when she came to Oxford, she had already provided electricity for 300,000 people from the local communities in Kenya through a partnership with a small fund from Europe, somewhere. The other experience, which is definitely going to shape my understanding of social entrepreneurship, was added to a WhatsApp group that concerned the newly established Center for Looking and Caring for People with Physical and Mental Disability in our local area. It was established by a very young, inspired and inspiring PhD holder with the support of esteemed Dr. Muhammad Al-Issa, and this is the first ever center in an area that hosts 8 million people. This is what I understand to be social entrepreneurship in a really multicultural world in which we can all participate. Thank you once again. I'm glad to be here.
Hello and good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Ahmed for inviting me to speak today. My name is Ian Ross. I'm a master's graduate from the University of Sussex. Unfortunately, Dr. Takataki couldn't make it today, so you'll be stuck with me. So my presentation may be a bit shorter than initially said. I'll be presenting my research about sustainable entrepreneurs acting in the marine environment. In terms of the ecotourism, interestingly, the entrepreneurs on the ecotourism front would actually be highly selective of who they took on their trips. They would actually try and select people who were change makers or perhaps leaders in their industry or had a big interest or reason to be there so that they can propagate the message that's been learnt on the ecotourism trip throughout their particular industry or particular group. So in summary, the physical nature of the marine environment impacts entrepreneurship. It definitely limits the amount of entrepreneurship. It's expensive, it's hard to be there. You need a particular skill set and a particular sort of education and background for people to be able to act in that environment, which certainly limits the amount. The unique conditions of the environment, the available markets, the unique combination of skill sets and knowledge limit the frequency of sustainable entrepreneurship creation. The entrepreneurs had particular motivations. They had an overarching strategic aim that subordinated profit seeking to environmental and social aims. Most of these businesses, their aim was not to make money. It was to make revenue. The aim was to create revenue that would allow the business to operate sustainably and fulfill the social and environmental goals. These entrepreneurs are rare and operate in a very specific niche market, but with the potential to create big impact when they get it right. What's so encouraging is the diverse, proactive, and innovative change entrepreneurs can bring to a sector that is badly in need of action.
Welcome to the University of East London. This is our Docklands campus. We have two other campuses in Stratford, one near the Olympic Park and one a little bit further out. So we were the Olympic University. We had the American Olympic team staying on campus and they locked us out, basically. And we had a missile destroyer in the dock as well. So security was very high on their agenda. So let's have a quick look. Let me just read you a quote. Social entrepreneurship is the use of techniques by startup companies and other entrepreneurs to develop, fund and implement solutions to social, cultural or environmental issues. This concept may be applied to a variety of organizations with different sizes, etc., etc., etc. This applies really quite nicely to this area. And similarly with some of the other projects included in this across Europe. So the rationale for this particular project was such that we all know that we all face challenges in the current environment. Financial crisis made that worse. There are environmental issues, there's sustainability issues, we have an aging population, and the issues around social inclusion. Now the slogan of the Commission's Social Business Initiative was, there is no economic growth and jobs creation without social entrepreneurship. And I think we all probably agree and buy into that. The initiative that was launched in 2011, the aim was to foster an enabling environment for the social economy.
So Rally is, for those who don't know, a sustainable development charity working with and through young people to create a lasting change. They're one of 9 partner organisations that were selected to deliver international citizen service, which is a DFID-funded programme that provides volunteer placements for young people. One of the key things about ICS is that it doesn't require people to have money or particular skills or qualifications to apply. People are selected on the basis of their ambition to make a difference. This is Stephen. Stephen was actually my homestay bubba, so I stayed in his house for 11 weeks. with his wife and his young daughter, Naima, and his cows and his goats and his chickens. So you can see here that there's a couple of pictures with some grass. One of his business ideas was to provide animal feed all year round. So not only cultivating grass, but then drying and storing it. And he was actually particularly ambitious. He had two business ideas. His other one was to deliver milk to the local town. So there was a lot of milk production in the village that we were working in. And he was hoping that he could make some money by collecting it all and delivering it to a local town. I've got a short video of Stephen hopefully saying some things about what he learned on the program.
Nilikuwa sijafanya uchunguzi wa wateja yani nilikuwa nategemea tu akitokea basi. Kwa hiyo saa hizi baada ya mafunzo haya nimepata kufanya utafiti, soko linapatikana wapi, na huo ndo uhakika nitazalisha zaidi na nitauza zaidi kwa wateja wengi ndani ya kijiji na nje ya kijiji hiki. Cha pili, ukusanyaji wa maziwa. Ukusanyaji wa maziwa utanipa faida kubwa ambayo ni hatima ya kufikia malengo yangu ya 2025 ya kuwa na kiwanda cha maziwa.
So the next entrepreneur I'm going to introduce you to is Leia. Leia was actually a bit of a superstar. Before we even met her, she had done a bit of training in artificial insemination. And she was looking for a loan in order to buy some of the equipment that she had previously been renting, so that obviously she could make a greater profit when she was doing the artificial insemination of cattle. But also to she wanted some extra money for transport, because she worked out that actually there was an opportunity for her to work in a wider district than just the neighbouring villages. So there she is speaking at one of our events and with one of her young children, and there are some words from Leia as well.
Yani mimi kwa kweli yani kwa wenzetu hao wajasiriamali ambao wamefika hapa kijijini wamesaidia mambo makubwa sana. Kwa mfano mimi nilikuwa sijui masuala ya cash flow, alafu nilikuwa sijui mpango wa biashara unakaeje, lakini jinsi walivyofika hawa wajasiriamali nimejifunza vitu vingi sana.
My name is Rudy Page. Just a very quick background. Management consultant, and I specialise in policy implementation. I work in the NHS here, and I do a lot of work around workforce development, staff development, system reconfiguration, and patient and public involvement within the system. And also I work internationally as well. Why I've included the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Out of the 17, we've actually chosen 6 out of the 17 that are kind of relevant to the health and well-being and inclusion agenda. So why that's important as well. If you think of any local community, doesn't matter where you are in the world, those goals actually give us a shared platform, a shared understanding. So we do use that. And of course, when you're talking with government, public officials at any level, and even some companies, these values are easily understood and can be shared.
I want to show you some things that are interesting to me and have been interesting over the past year. And hopefully we can have some interesting discussions on those things. Now, 1 in 10 in the US go online exclusively through mobile phones. Now, even more interestingly is 3/4 of people admit to checking their phone on the toilet in the US. If we think about the UK, we can see that there are differences with regards to age brackets. But mobile is still important. We have a situation where we've moved away from a piece of technology such as a tower, and we've moved more towards mobiles. I realize that I use my mobile phone a lot, especially for research. You know, I take pictures, they're timed, they're date stamped, they're location stamped, and I don't use a camera very much other than the one on my phone because I can share things quickly. And with information everywhere, ubiquitous information, that levels the playing field. No longer do you have to think that there are these libraries that have restricted access. You know, you can find out anything about anybody. Think about how Google can tell you various things. I had an interview with Google, and they can tell you where a cold virus starts, purely through search. When you're watching television and you're watching Question Time or whatever, and you think, who is that old git there? And you type in their name, and it says, did you mean this person? Yes, I did. And even more scary is when you type in a few letters of somebody from school, and they say, you mean this person, don't you? Well, how do you know?
I have to say that most of the points that I'm going to make are very broad strokes. I mean, we're talking about this from a global perspective. And beyond that, actually, most of the things I'm going to bring up have already actually been brought up in various ways by all of the speakers before me. So I feel an appropriate place for me is kind of a recap, a look back on all these different sorts of legal and policy ways that governments can promote social enterprise. Just a quick reason on why. Why should governments promote social enterprise? And there are plenty of reasons. We've heard plenty of reasons thus far. One of the big things to me is demographics. I find demographics fascinating. And I think that right now in the world, we are at a time where we're in unprecedented demographic change and issues from that change. If we look at what's happened recently in the Middle East, a 30% unemployment rate. There's also, in many of these less and least developing countries, poor access to basic needs, education, water, electricity. This all fuels a sense of social unrest. I mean, people believe that these demographic issues are heavily tied to the Arab Spring uprisings. So, I mean, just from a geopolitical sense, it is important to address youth unemployment and youth unrest, regardless of where it is in the world. And social entrepreneurship is a way to do this. Now, of course, it's not a panacea. There is no silver bullet to solving this problem, but it is a very useful tool that I believe all governments should be actively trying to promote. Now, there are a few things that I identified. There are 5 points that I believe all governments should focus on. Again, these are very broad points that ignore context. So we have identifying needs, opportunities, and sectors as the first thing that they have to do. Second, defining social enterprise legally. Third, creating enabling frameworks. Fourth, coming up with modes of finance. And fifth, providing business and skills development support.